Canadian Rockies and Glacier National Park. This is one of our best-selling Canadian tour. We call it a Canadian tour, even though it does come into the U.S. I mean, this tour is all about natural beauty. So when I go through the slides, of course, I'll have some commentary, but I'll go through because this is one of those destinations you sell by the visual, right? It's just so beautiful. And if you've been, you know, if you haven't, you're in for a real treat. So I'll tell you a little bit about the company in case you don't know us. Premier World Discovery. We've been working with Karen and your OLLI program for a number of years. We were established in 1999 and we're headquartered in California. Our motto is we're group travel for active adults. We focus on the 50 plus crowd. I would say that our average passenger is somewhere around 70, somewhere in that range. We have had people up into their 90s and people in their 30s and 40s. But, you know, so when you see things like the activity level is 3, don't think it's a 3 for like 25-year-olds. There's no bungee jumping and spelunking and things like that. We always build our tours for what we call active seniors, active adults. So that is our primary market. And we work with, you know, anybody that sells to that market. So we work with OLLI programs, we work with chambers of commerce. And as I said, we've been in business for 27 years now. And this is our 27th year in business. You know, travel is an industry of acronyms. So USTOA is the U.S. Tour Operators Association. It's kind of like the Good Housekeeping seal of approval. And it requires us to post $1 million bond. So if God forbid something goes wrong, people's deposits are protected and what have you. We're also members of IATAN and ASTR, all these acronyms. They're just business associations that give us legitimacy. And we also carry a $5 million liability insurance policy in case, again, God forbid, something goes wrong. So it's just to let you know you're in good hands. We're a good company. We're a solid company. And we're an A+ rating with Better Business Bureau. And so we're proud of that. We offer we have tours to 80 destinations around the world. And we move about, I think the number's a little bit higher now. The 10,000 passengers, I think, was 2025. 2024, I think we were closer to like 12 to 15,000. And again, 50 tours to 80 destinations around the world. This gives you an idea of our inside team. Again, just to let you know, you're in good hands. We have a product team. We have a customer support team. And what Premier does, differently is we're an all-inclusive travel experience. So great hotel accommodations. We have a tour director with you from beginning to end of the tour. So, you're always in good hands. And I'll go over that in a little more detail as we go through. It includes guides, not only our guide, but, when you go into different cities and places, we have what are called step-on guides that are experts on one particular part of the tour. And they come on and they step on and then they do the tour and then they step off. So all of our motor coaches are less than 5 years old. They all have water on board. They all have facilities on board. So, you never have to worry about anything like that. We include breakfast daily, some lunches and dinners, of course, but we always do a welcome and farewell dinner because most of our tours are what we call blended tours. So there might be, 10 people from USF OLLI. There might be 10 from, the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce, and you're kind of traveling together. So we always have that welcome dinner so you can meet your fellow travelers. You meet the tour guide, and you'll meet the tour guide before that, but a little more depth. And so we always have the farewell dinner as well. And just to give it a proper send-off, baggage handling at hotels, and of course all the sightseeing and cultural experiences. So it depends on the destination, but what we're trying to do more of as well is have tours that don't have a lot of hotels. We we only have one hotel, some we have two. Certain destinations like this, you can't. This is too much to see. So, there'd be more than the one or two hotels. But again, an all-inclusive experience for you. So this tour begins with a round-trip airfare to Calgary, which is kind of the gateway to the Rockies. This is the tour map, what we call the itinerary map. So just to give you an idea, one, of course, is where you arrive, and then you're going around and seeing the different national parks, which I'll show you some amazing pictures of. And this tour obviously includes Canada and the U.S. because a lot of this is contiguous. So Glacier National Park, and the Canadian national parks are contiguous, and we're talking millions of acres of preserved land that are just contiguous. And so it really lends itself well to this kind of cross-border experience. So the accommodations, it's a 6-night tour. So you're going to do one night in Calgary. You arrive and we transfer you to your hotel in Calgary. Then we do a night Glacier National Park. And I have pictures of these further into the presentation. One night at the Red Lion or the Hilton Garden Inn in Kalispell, and 3 nights at Caribou Lodge at Ptarmigan Inn in Banff. So depending on the tour, they're all of the same standard. And I'll show you the pictures so you can see that whether you wind up in the Caribou Lodge or Ptarmigan Inn, which we'll know as we get closer to the departure date, they're of the same standard. They have the same facilities and things like that. So I'll show you some pictures as we go further into it here. We include 9 meals, 6 breakfasts, and 3 dinners. That's a breakfast. I bet you never saw that before, right? And then you arrive in Calgary. So where do you meet the tour director? So remember, this is, in the old days, you could go to Canada with a driver's license. You need your passport. Remember that. And the tour director will meet you outside of customs. So you go through immigration, Canadian immigration, you go through customs, and then as you're heading down to the tour director will be right there waiting for you outside of customs. And then you get on board the motor coach and off you go. So that person will be with you from the very beginning to the very end. The same tour director will be with you from beginning to end, which is great because if you need anything or anything goes wrong, but it's also just the continuity of the program, right? Getting to know the person and the tour director and them getting to know you. So this is a shot of Calgary. Calgary has grown immensely in the last few years because of our good friend crude oil. That's where the Alberta tar sands are a little bit more to the west, but Calgary is the gateway to that resource, and also, of course, the national parks. Calgary was like 500,000 people 20 years ago. It's over 1 million now, and that's Canada. I mean, 1 million people in Canada is a big deal, right? So this is what the Residence Inn looks like here. So you kind of look in the lower left, you'll see what a typical room looks like. There's, of course, a pool, some of the common areas. And then, of course, we have the welcome dinner on the first night, as I mentioned, so that you can get to meet your fellow travelers. And the tour director, of course, you'll have met that person, but you get to know them a little bit better. So on day 2, this is in a unique place. It's called Head Smashed In Buffalo Jump. So look, our in Canada, they're called First Nations people. They don't call them Native Americans, of course, because they're in Canada, I guess. But there was a unique hunting technique that they used to hunt buffalo. They would drive them off this, it's like a 90-foot, 30-meter high cliff. So they would use horses and they would drive the buffalo, and they would fall off the cliff and get their head smashed in, I guess. But look, Native Americans were probably a lot better than our Canadians, whatever. Probably better than us at preserving resources, but they would still, they still needed to feed their people. So they didn't sometimes just hunt one buffalo. So they would run them off the cliff, and that would provide them with food and skins for shelter and whatever else they needed to get them through the winter, basically. And there's an interpretive center up at the top, so you get a good feel for it, what it looks like, how the Indians, Native Americans, Native Canadians actually used this cliff to hunt. So it's a really fun interpretive center where you get a good look at the valley below and the mountains in the distance as well. But you learn about how the Native Indigenous people hunted. Then you go to Waterton Lakes National Park. This actually borders Glacier National Park, so it goes right up to the Canadian border, and then Glacier National Park continues. Some people actually call it Glacier Waterton Lakes National Park. So this is it's a World Heritage Site. It's known for its beautiful lakes. So when you look at these lakes, and there's more pictures of them going in, of course, they almost look like the Caribbean, right, in a way. The water is just stunningly blue, and that's from the glacial runoff and the minerals and things that are in the glacial water as they run off into the lakes. And this is Prince of Wales Hotel, and just a good view of the lake again. So there's a lot of pictures, and I'm just going to I'll go through them fairly quickly just to give you an idea what they look like. Again, this is a very visual tour. And of course, then on day 2, we're going to go into Glacier National Park. Glacier National Park's 1 million acres. It's huge. It's in the state of Montana. It's got over 100 lakes within its borders. Of course, it's got glaciers and a lot of wildlife. This is one of the last remaining places in the lower 48, anyways, where you have a chance to really see grizzly bears. There's quite a population of them there, along with other wildlife as well. So again, the beautiful lakes, the beautiful mountains. You'll see there's a small glacier there off in the distance. We're staying at the Glacier Park Lodge, which is right in the park, and very popular place to stay, and really hard to get reservations in, quite honestly. So this is almost a destination in and of itself with the history and being in the park. And you see how rustic it is with the exposed timbers, beautiful common areas. You see what a common typical bedroom looks like on the lower left. Beautiful views out the common area windows in the restaurant, out into the mountains and the glaciers and the valleys. Again, just stunning views of the park. I mean, the lakes and there won't be foliage this time of year, but the weather is beautiful. Again, you see glaciers, small glaciers off in the distance, and thankfully the glaciers are kind of regenerating a little bit. There was a lot of concern because of global warming and what have you, but they are kind of rebuilding themselves and coming back. So, you'll see the beautiful waterfalls, which is runoff from the glaciers themselves. Again, the mountains and the lakes. And then we're going to take you on what's called the Red Jammer touring cars. These are 1930s vintage. They're not buses. They're kind of like, I don't know, there's some kind of a unique vehicle that they use to take you along the going to Sun Road, which is a road that goes through Glacier National Park with amazing views of the mountains and the valleys and the beautiful lakes. And it's a great way to see it, right? If the weather's nice, they can roll the roof back on them, and it's as long as the weather's cooperating. And they're very rustic and they're very traditional. And this is really the only place that you'll ever see these type of 1930s vintage touring cars. And this is the Going to Sun Highway. So it followed an old Native American path that they called the Going to Sun because it kind of goes in a westerly direction and what have you. But it's been paved over, of course, and now it's a very modern road, but it's right in the national park. You get beautiful views. You go through tunnels that are carved through the mountains. You see the beautiful rock formations. More pictures. And then you go to Logan Pass, which is the Continental Divide. So you'll actually experience the Continental Divide. If you don't know what the Continental Divide is, I don't mean to be condescending, but it's where water drains in either direction. So if you're on the western side of the Continental Divide, all of the watershed goes off to the Pacific Ocean. And if you're in the Continental Divide, it all goes off either into the Mississippi or on the eastern side, the Atlantic Ocean or the Gulf of Mexico. So that's the Continental Divide. It divides it by how water drainage happens and in which direction it goes. So it's kind of like experiencing the equator, right? You actually get to say you've crossed the Continental Divide. This is Birdwoman Falls. It's a 900-foot tall waterfall. It's on the Going to Sun Road. 900 feet. I mean, that's spectacular. It's a beautiful waterfall. Weeping Wall. So this is caused by glacial runoff that kind of goes down through the rocks and comes out the porous side. So it's not really waterfalls. It almost looks like, the Native Americans looked like the rocks were crying. So they called it the Weeping Wall. But it's caused by the glacial runoff and the porous rock and the water coming out. It doesn't run off. You can see it comes out through the front wall. As I said, this is one of the few places in the lower 48 where you might actually see grizzly bears. There's quite I don't know the exact number, but I know that there's a healthy population. They're doing very well, especially because it's contiguous with Canada where there's a lot more open space. So you might, if you're lucky, but you'll be in a vehicle, so you won't have to worry. Mountain goats are another big mammal that you should see. No guarantees on seeing wildlife, of course, but they're there in big numbers. Wolves have been reintroduced into Glacier National Park as well. They were unfortunately shot out in the early 1900s. They had a bounty on their head, and the whole ecosystem went out of whack, and so they reintroduced them. And in some parts, they actually reintroduced themselves from Canada, but they've restored the balance. And I was reading a story about how, when you bring an apex predator back like this, how it affects the ecosystem. So the elk used to always be down by the rivers because they had nothing to be afraid of, and they would eat all the trees, the baby sapling trees. And so the trees never grew. But when they started bringing the wolves in, the elk started scattering up into the mountains, into the forest areas, which allowed the trees to grow, which allowed the rivers to flow better, which brought beavers back. I mean, it's just an amazing story. So wolves are there. Again, mountain goats. Lake McDonald is a 10-mile long, it's a 500-foot deep glacial lake. So this was carved back during the Ice Age, and it's again, the beautiful blue waters caused by the glacial runoff, and it's 100 miles long and 500 feet deep. That's a heck of a lake. And then we'll take you to Lake McDonald Lodge for lunch on your own. This is another beautiful rustic lodge that was built, I think, in the 40s, if I'm not mistaken. And then you'll arrive in Kalispell we'll do a one-night stay in Kalispell. And it's at the Red Lion Hotel. Again, you see the standard. It's kind of built in that rustic tradition. It's a newer hotel, but it keeps the look and feel of the region. Typical room down on the lower left, common areas, what have you. Or you might stay at the Hilton Garden Inn. Again, you see the room on the lower left, the public areas. So it'll be one of those two. And again, as we get closer, we'll know which one it is. Then we take you to Kootenay National Park. It's 1,000 square miles. It goes along the Vermilion River. And it's famous for its hot springs. It's got a lot of, what do they call it? Geothermal activity. So it's a little reminiscent in a way of like what you see in Iceland. So they have, or Yosemite, they have hot springs, a lot of water bubbling up out of ground, underground, and beautiful landscapes, mountains again. You see the erosion, so they have these beautiful rock formations. This is the Vermilion River. Take you through Sinclair Canyon, which is a very narrow canyon that you'll get to drive through, and it's a great experience as well. So these are the hot springs. So these are naturally occurring hot springs. If you've been to Iceland or read about Iceland, they're famous for the geothermal hot springs where you can swim, and this is kind of a similar experience here. And then we arrive in Banff for a 3-night stay. What else you'll see are what are called mud pots. They're like this bubbling mud mixture of mud and water that bubbles and bubbles, and it's beautiful colors because there's all kinds of minerals in there. So you'll see those as well. But those, obviously, you don't swim in. They're probably 250 degrees or whatever, 212 degrees. So you wouldn't want to go in those. But the hot springs are very comfortable and very healing. A lot of minerals in the water. So you stay in Banff for 3 nights. Look at the view, the downtown, the mountains in the distance there. We'll stay at the Banff Caribou Lodge. Again, the lower left is a typical room, some of the public areas, or the Ptarmigan Inn. Again, sound like a broken record, but lower left is a typical room. See a lot of the public areas. Very similar standard, whether you stay in one or the other. They're in the same area. They're of the same standard. Then we take you to the Icefield Parkway. This is right along. It takes you from like Lake Louise to Jasper, but it's one of the most. Honestly, it's been ranked one of the most beautiful drives in the world. The vistas and the valleys and the mountains and things you see along the way are just incredible. Of course, you're going to have wildlife along the way. When I drove this, I actually saw a black bear up in a tree like that one you see kind of in the center, kind of moving, swinging back and forth. So you never know what you're going to see when you're in the wild here. So that's a caribou on the left. Of course, a grizzly bear on the right, brown bear. Those are bighorn sheep. Again, another elk. And this is Peyto Lake. Peyto Lake, look at the color. I mean, that's what it's famous for. And again, it looks like, a painting or something out of the Caribbean. And it's actually, that is caused, again, by the glacial runoff. So as the glaciers melt and reform, the water picks up minerals and deposits them in the lake. I mean, it doesn't even look real. It's such a beautiful, beautiful color of blue. And then we're going to take you on a snow coach, which will get you, so you actually get to go up and get on top of a glacier. So we take you up to the Athabasca Glacier. It's a 6 kilometer long glacier, but we take the snow coach to the top. Obviously, they're built to work their way up the ice fields, and you'll have this beautiful experience of, you can even taste the water if you want, which a lot of people do. There's a certain spot where you can actually drink the water from the glacial runoff. See the guy, I think that's what the guy in the lower left is doing. I think he's getting a little glass of water down there. So then we're off to Lake Louise and Banff again. This is Lake Louise, another glacial lake, very famous. Everybody's probably heard of it. Again, though, it's the colors of the water in the mountains that's completely surrounded by what are called the Valley of the 10 Peaks. So this is Moraine Lake, another lake, but it's surrounded by 10 peaks that actually surround it. And it's just a stunning view. There you go. I didn't count them all. I think there's probably a few behind me too. So this is the Chateau Lake Louise and Lake Louise. And you can see the Victoria Glacier directly ahead. And that's where the water's coming in that's giving it this beautiful color. This is the inside of Chateau Lake Louise. This is Mount Rundle. You can see how it's kind of like sedimentary rock that's kind of striated, but it's going up, which shows that this whole area was like pushed up at one point in the past. From it was probably an ancient seabed, I would think. At one point, you can see the striations in the rock, but now it's kind of at almost like a 45-degree angle, which just shows the power of the Earth when it decides these tectonic plates are going to move upwards. So that's how this was formed. Hoodoos are actually this isn't you can see the hoodoos in the left here, right above the day 6. Basically, what a hoodoo is it's they're needle or tower-like rock formations, like you might see kind of in Badlands National Park or something like that. It's hard sedimentary rock that was surrounded by softer rock that eroded away. So they're called hoodoos in Canada. There's a better picture of a hoodoo there. A hoodoo in Louisiana is a completely different thing. It's a ghost. But, there's that old song, Chasing Down a Hoodoo there. But in Canada, it's these rock formations. And Tunnel Mountain, it's a small mountain, but it's got the best view of Banff and the surrounding valleys. So you'll be able to get these panoramic views of the little town of Banff and, of course, the mountains and the valleys around it. Bow Falls. This is the Bow River. What makes it unique is it's a low waterfall, but it's very wide. And it's one of the few in North America that has this structure. It's the Bow River once again. It's a very wide, very low waterfall. And then we're going to take you up on gondolas so that you can get to the top of Sulphur Mountain, which is it's only an 8-minute ride. And this is, again, so you can take there's a little boardwalk where you can walk around and you get these amazing panoramic views of the Rocky Mountains. In the valley, of course, there. And then the final, we have a farewell dinner with your fellow travelers. And then you fly home with wonderful memories. So remember, passports are required. In the old days, like I said, you didn't need them to go to Canada, but now we do. So make sure you have a valid passport. They say just have 6 months beyond the travel date. I think that's a good recommendation. The currency is Canadian dollars. This is one place. I mean, occasionally you'll find someone that will take American dollars, but not very often. I mean, they want their own currency. So plenty of opportunities to exchange money. You don't have to use cash. It always helps to have a little bit, I guess. But, of course, they take credit cards and everything else. So remember, if you make your final payment 90 days out by check, you get a $100 per person discount off the price. And that's because we're not incurring any bank charges, so we pass those along to you. Again, I kind of went over all this, but this is all the inclusions. It does include airfare and all the sites and meals and everything that I discussed. If you want to know what the temperature is going to be like, August 73 in Calgary, 78 in Glacier National Park, and 71 in Banff. So beautiful weather. I don't know where you all live, but certainly getting out of Florida at this time of year is not a bad thing. At that time of year is not a bad thing. Beautiful weather, not too hot, not too cold. Again, it's a 3. Don't worry about that so much. Again, it just means you should be able to, walk, and there's walking and things like that. It might be some uneven, streets and things. It's not completely flat like here in Florida. Again, reservations it's a space limited tour. We are holding space for your program, but it's the deposit's $400 for all domestic programs. And if you're going to purchase the traveler protection plan, you have to do that when you make your deposit. But your deposit is no risk. So they're fully refundable up to 180 days prior to departure. And if you cancel within the 180 days, you can use the full value on a different program valid for 12 months. So you can deposit, and then if something happens and you change your mind, your deposit will be refunded to you as long as you cancel outside the 180 days. Travel protection plan. There's 2 sides to it. There's pre-trip and post-trip. We have what's called cancellation waiver protection. That's Part A, and this is provided by us. We do this by our own. So if you cancel for any reason, that's medicals, a death in the family, or you're sick up to the day of departure, you get your money back. If you cancel for any reason, you had a bad hair day, your dog's sick, you just don't want to go, we will give you a future travel credit of 75% of the value of the tour that you can use. Then Part B, we use a travel insurance provider called USI. That's trip interruption and baggage and all this stuff. There's a lot of boilerplate to read, but there is accident medical coverage, and we have evacuation in there and the whole deal if you were to get sick, and so read it through. It's a great plan. It's not required, of course, but we recommend it. You need to have a real ID, but a passport is a real ID, so I wouldn't sweat this too much, but it's just a good reminder that for any other travel within the United States, you need to have a real ID. Compass Club is like our version of a frequent flyer program. So you don't have to do anything. You book a tour with us through USF. You're automatically enrolled. And then the next time you book, you get $100 per person loyalty credit. And it's valid for 24 months. So you don't have to do anything. You're automatically enrolled. If you book, that's when you book the first tour. When you book your next tour with us, you automatically get that savings. So thank you. I'm sorry again that I was delayed, but if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them. If I can't answer them, I will get the answers. I don't know everything, but I can try. And if I can't, I will certainly get back to Karen with the answers.